Hello again, my name's John. I'm a retired cook from the northeast of England in the UK, and welcome to another one of my pie videos. And in this one I'll show you how to make this delicious steak and Guinness pie. This classic steak and Guinness stout pie originated in Ireland, but over the last few decades it's now being served in restaurants and pubs up and down the full length of the British Isles. The combination of steak, mushroom and onions cooked in a rich beef stock and Guinness stout is truly amazing, and I really hope you give this one a try, guys. You can see the ingredients list and full written method for this recipe on the recipe page on the channel's website, and the link to that page and lots more is in the description box under the video. Just find and click on the word more, and that'll give you access to all the relative links for this video, including our website store products. Okay, let's get straight into making this absolutely stunning pie recipe. For this recipe, I'll be making short crust pastry. By far, the best way to make short crust pastry is to use a food processor. It's very quick and easy, but more importantly, it keeps all the ingredients cold, which is essential when making short crust pastry. But if you want to make it by hand, you can see how it's done in my chicken and mushroom pie recipe. I'll leave a link in the description box below. First to go into the machine is the plain or all-purpose flour. Next is the salt. For this recipe I'm using all butter. This will give the pastry a fantastic rich flavour and flaky texture. Pulse the machine until you have a fine breadcrumb consistency. This should take around 30 to 45 seconds. Once again, if you don't have a machine or you just want to give it a go by hand, check out my creamy chicken and mushroom pie recipe for the instructions on how to do it. Next step, set the machine running while you slowly pour in the ice cold water. Once the pastry comes together and starts rolling around the machine like this, it's done. Once again, this should only take about 30 to 45 seconds. And how easy was that? Now get all of the pastry out of the machine, including the bits. And if your measurements were correct at the start, you should have around 560 grams, that's around 20 ounces. So you need to divide it into two pieces. 300 grams or 11 ounces for the base of the pie, and the 260 grams or 9 ounces that's left will be for the top of the pie. Wrap them both in cling film and get them into the fridge for at least 30 minutes before using it. Now you can make this well in advance, even the day before. Onto the pie filling. For this recipe you'll need 300 ml of Guinness stout. If the alcohol's an issue, you can always use the alcohol-free version. I've purposely let mine go flat so I can measure it better without the froth. You'll also need 300 ml of beef stock. If you don't have any natural stock, use a couple of beef stock cubes instead. Okay, over to the stove to make this delicious pie filling. In a large frying pan on a high heat, add 2 tablespoons of the olive oil. Once the oil's nice and hot, add the diced stewing beef to the pan and stir fry until you have some colour in the meat. If you only have a small frying pan, don't overcrowd the pan. Do this step in 2 halves. Keep the meat moving by stirring and tossing. Once you reach this stage, transfer it to a medium-sized saucepan. And a very quick mention to the channel's Patreon members and supporters, I'll be giving the latest list a shout out a little later in the video. Get the frying pan back on the heat and add the 2 remaining tablespoons of olive oil. Once it's hot, add the diced onions. And if you wouldn't mind, guys, if you found the video useful and enjoyable, can you give the video a like by hitting the thumbs up? It really helps the channel tremendously. Stir fry those for a couple of minutes, then add the chopped garlic. Now you can add the mushrooms. I'm using diced shiitake mushrooms in mine. If you can't get those, just ordinary ones will do. And stir fry those in. While those are cooking, get the saucepan with the meat in on a separate ring, on a medium heat. Add the beef stock and the Guinness to the saucepan. Now carefully add the onion mixture to the saucepan. Next to go in is the tomato paste or tomato puree, it doesn't matter which. Then mix that in until it dissolves into the liquid. Time to season with salt and black pepper. And if you have used stock cubes to make the beef stock, be very careful how much salt you add. Right, I'll give that a quick taste. If you're happy with your seasoning, add the bay leaves and bring it to a boil. Once boiling, give it a final stir, get the lid on and turn the heat down to low. Now let that simmer for 1 hour. Once the time's up, check that the meat is nice and tender. If it isn't tender, just cook it for a little longer. Once you're happy that your meat is nice and tender, you can thicken it with the corn flour and cold water mixture. Add a little at a time. Once you think it's thick enough, your filling's done. Now let it completely cool before using it. You can speed up that process considerably by floating the pan in a sink of cold water, which is exactly what I'm going to do. While that's cooling, I'll prepare the pastry. For rolling the pastry out, I'll be using our adjustable stainless steel rolling pin. Now these are also available on the website. These amazing rolling pins take all of the guesswork out of rolling your pastry out to the correct thickness. And for this one, I'll be using the 3mm or 1/8 spacer. Start by dusting the bench with flour. And this is the pie tin that I'll be using. I've already greased it with butter. Size of the tin is on screen. Get the larger of the two pastry discs onto the floured bench and dust it with flour too. Now roll the pastry out into a large circle as shown. Remember, the pastry has to be bigger than the tin that you're using. Roll it backwards and forwards in straight lines and turn the pastry 90 degrees at a time. This should keep it reasonably round. Use your tin as a guide for the size that you need. If you have got one of these pins, keep rolling until the guides hit the bench. Then you should have the perfect size and the perfect thickness for this recipe. Once your pastry is big enough, dust it and roll it onto the pin. Now carefully line it up and unroll it onto the tin. Now gently manipulate the pastry into the tin. Use a spare piece of pastry to push it right down into the corners where the sides meet the base. Once the pastry's in and you're happy with it, you can set it aside while you roll out the top pastry for the pie. Keep dusting the bench and the pastry as you go. Once again, use the tin to check the size. When you're happy with it, roll that onto the pin too, then have a clean up. Time to put this beautiful Guinness pie together. First job is to make the egg wash. Crack a large egg into a container, add a dash of milk and whisk vigorously until it runs off the whisk as a loose liquid. Before going any further, preheat your oven to 170 degrees Celsius, that's 340 Fahrenheit or gas mark 3. Time to put this wonderful pie together. Grab a fork and prick a few holes in the base of the pastry as shown. This is called docking the pastry. It's to prevent the pastry from bubbling up when baking. Right, get your now cold filling into the case. Once it's all in, level it off. Okay, get your egg wash and brush it all around the lip of the pastry. And I've got to say, these pretty expensive eggs I got from our local supermarket have the yellowest yolks I've ever seen in a supermarket egg. Now unroll the lid of the pastry over the filling. Gently press down the edges with the palm of your hands. Now using your forefingers and thumbs, crimp all the way around the edge of the pie as shown. Once that's done, carefully trim the excess pastry off like so. Once you have it trimmed, crimp around the pie edges again to tidy it all up. Before egg washing, cut a few vent holes in the middle of the pie. I like to use this pattern for Guinness Pie. At this point you can call it done, but I like to add a few embellishments or decorations using any spare pastry that's left. If you do go this extra mile, stick the spare rolled pastry in the freezer for 5 minutes first. It makes it so much easier to cut and shape using your bench scraper. Now give the whole thing a good coat of the egg wash. Carefully add the little decorations, evenly spaced apart. And get those egg washed too. In our work kitchens we call this our sunshine Guinness Pie. And that's it, a work of art. Now get it into the preheated oven and set your timer for 45 minutes. After about 25 minutes, turn the pie 180 degrees. That'll keep the colour nice and even. And while that's baking, I hope you don't mind if I give my 4 recipe books a quick shout out. The books have lots of our favourite recipes from our work kitchens in them, and also book 4 in this series is totally dedicated to bread recipes. The skeleton style oven gloves, now supporting our company name, are also available too. Just check out the link in the description box to our website store if you're interested in any of these items. Okay, time's up on this amazing pie. And the aroma this thing is kicking out is mouth-watering. And it's looking tremendous. A fantastic golden brown colour, and it looks so appetising. Can't do anything with it at the minute, it's far too hot. I let it relax on the wire rack for 10 minutes before I get it out of the tin. Time to get it out of the tin, but I'll leave it sitting on its non-stick insert. Right, time to cut a slice of this impressive looking pie. When we served this to our customers, it was with mashed potatoes or chips, mushy peas and lots of rich beefy gravy. And how delicious does that look? And at last it's time to try a piece. And honestly, that is truly delicious. A crisp buttery pastry, very tender steak, and the flavour of the Guinness and the beef and the gravy is absolutely outstanding. This is something you've got to try to appreciate just how delicious this is. So give it a try, guys. I promise you and your family will be giving it and you a massive thumbs up. And as mentioned earlier in the video, here is the latest list of my Patreon, PayPal and Super Thank You button supporters. And they are Dan Calgero, Haku Shiro, Kerry Saunders, John Dorian, Vilpon, Jens K3250, Dan Thunder 5373, Magic Data 42, John Poulet Smith Form 2698, and finally Linda Schamberger 1005. And there's also 2 who wish to remain anonymous. Thanks very much, guys. I really do appreciate all that you do in supporting the channel. Well, thank you again for watching. Please like, share, comment and subscribe by hitting the circle above. If you do subscribe, activate the bell icon next to the subscribe button on my channel page. And by doing that, you'll be automatically notified every time I upload a new video. And in the meantime, here's a few of my other videos and playlists that you may want to watch. So, until the next time, be safe in your kitchen and bye for now.